Hello and welcome to the February Chancellor's Town Hall at University of Washington, Tacoma. My name is Joe Lawless and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer in the Chancellor's office. And I'd like to thank you for participating virtually through YouTube. Since we can't be together physically yet, we use this virtual format to allow for the most people to participate. So we start our meetings at UW Tacoma with an acknowledgement of the land where UWT is situated. So we recognize that all of us at UW Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, our campus is situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup. As people on this occupied territory, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all our Indigenous connections today. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our Indigenous community members and neighbors as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. Thank you. So this is the way this is going to work. If you have questions, you can send them to uwttownhall@uw.edu. You can send those before the meeting, during the meeting, or even after the meeting, and we will try to get answers to your questions. If we don't get to your questions during the hour, we'll post them on a Q&A with the video of this session. So I'd like to introduce those joining us for this town hall today. So we have with us Chancellor Pagano and Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Mentha Hines Wilson. So Mark, would you like to kick things off?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. My pleasure to be here again. And thank you all of you who have joined in. And I think we have a short town hall today. We don't have a whole lot to update. We're getting towards the end of the quarter. But before I start with the updates, if you'll bear with me, I would just like to talk to you a little bit about some of the things I've been reflecting on just over the past few days, actually. I thought I would share with you how proud I actually am of our campus. We have an awesome campus here, and I'm not talking about the kind of pride that makes people, bad. And there's a lyrics in an Avett Brothers song about that. But the kind of pride that, your mother had about you when you did something special at school or something special for her. So that good kind of pride. I have that of our campus, and it's really shown lately in many things that have been going on. Now, we can't take credit for putting this campus here, but I hope that some of you on this call, all of you, take credit for the part that you play. I do think it's important that you reflect and feel good about all the good things that we're doing here in the South Puget Sound, the interactions we're having with students, faculty and staff, and our surrounding community. So I do take pride in that, and I'll tell you a couple of pride points I've seen just in the last few days. Now, I obviously am not naive. There are things that are not so good also on our campus. We stub our toes often. There are people, students, employees who have not been treated with the respect and appreciation they deserve. And I get very sad about that. And we'll be taking the necessary actions to work on that very soon. As you all know, we have the climate survey implementation teams hard at work as we speak. And they're coming to the end of their initial work, and then the heavy lift will come as we all respond to what we hear from the climate survey implementation teams. And that will be an in-depth subject of some town halls to come up soon. So back to the positive things though. Just lately, I've been involved in some really pretty awesome activities. I didn't know all the details around it, but I signed up for a book session the other night, and it turned out to be just a wonderful evening. It was a new book that was co-written by two of our professors, Professor Lisa Hoffman from Urban Studies and Mary Hanneman and SIAS. The session was moderated by Professor Danica Miller, and the host was Justin Walden from our library. And I thought I was gonna, hear a book review, but it was just a wonderful evening. In this new book, they shared the history of what was on our campus at one time, the Japanese downtown community and the Japanese language school that no longer exists on our campus, but the spirit of the place and the learning and the spirit of the folks before the Japanese community, the Puyallup tribe that was there. It was just a wonderful evening. The discussions were full of passion and concern for the past and making sure we honored that. And I was just so proud of our professors that worked on that, and Danica for moderating it, and Justin, and so on and so forth. Likewise, yesterday, I had an opportunity to take a tour of some of the development that's going on right south of our campus. So the Brewery Districts, surely some of you have seen all the development that's going on down there. And when we get back to more normal, actually the face of downtown here is kind of changing. That is going to be a really vibrant extension. I like to say extension of our campus, but it's not ours, but it will feel like an extension of our campus just south of here by the Holiday Inn. But I got to go on that tour with some of the developers, but our professor, our founding professor, I believe Michael Sullivan, was with us, and to hear him talk about the rich history of our campus and the downtown Tacoma, and previous to when we were here, and the respect that he has for what we do, and the respect for that history and acknowledging that history, and our responsibility to carry that to the people that follow us, really, again, made me proud. And then I'll tell you one more thing that just really struck me. I'm going to talk in a few minutes about our legislative advocacy that David and I are doing. But just recently, maybe 2 weeks ago, in one of those sessions, our state senator, actually our senator for the 27th district, where UW Tacoma is, we were having a conversation with her, and we were waiting to get started. And she asked me if I knew Dr. Marion Harris. And I said, well, of course I know Dr. Marion Harris. And she's actually on my leadership team right now, serving as special assistant to the Chancellor. She's heavily involved in the climate implementation survey work. But anyway, our state senator said that she was recently in a training session for a statewide, I don't know exactly the details, but a statewide child welfare project that they're working on in the legislature. And they went through some training, and the book that they used was by this professor, Marion Harris. And she said she was so proud that she represents this school. She had no idea we had folks on our campus. And I said, yes, we have world-renowned scholars on our campus. And so anyway, I got to tell Marion about that, and I think she was pretty pleased. Likewise, I've been really pleased, and it makes me feel so good, as bad as things seem some days that we're never going to get out of this pandemic and we haven't been together. People still seem to be in really good spirits. Yesterday, I had to deliver something to Carlton. Carlton's, not really far from here, and I know it's been pretty empty lately. But I walked over there and went into the office. I expected it to actually be locked up. I thought I would have to call somebody. But I went over there and was greeted by Stephanie Mann, who works in that front office, just happened to be in. She was so friendly. I actually think she was glad to see me. You'd have to ask her. I don't know if she really was. But I had a great conversation about the hope for the future. So that was really a positive interaction. And as Joe knows, because Joe is on the same floor I am, we have a great custodial crew on our campus. And they are part of us right now. They are UW employees, and I've been really impressed. David, I don't know David's last name, but he's the one that we interact with quite a bit on our floor, and he is just so helpful, always has something positive to say. So, things are not as bad as they seem. People are in good spirits. A lot of good things are going on. Our facility services crew and our safety and security folks, they've really never left our campus. They're here every day working hard, and they're extremely friendly, and I think happy when somebody shows up on campus, because it's not often. It's like if you come to campus, you're a little bit of a celebrity because they don't see many people here. But they're all friendly and helpful. I run across Darren or Lauren or Robert or even Michael. I've talked to all of them, and they are eager for us to be back on campus as well. So anyway, I can't speak for them, but they seem to me to be in good spirits and eager for us to get back to normal. So I just wanted to share that with all of you, and maybe at the end we'll talk a little bit more about that and the hope that we have to be back more in a normal way of operation. It's going to be forever changed. But I hope that's on a horizon, and I'll talk maybe a little bit more at the end. But I should probably get to some of the updates. So first of all, legislative advocacy is going very well. I've really been impressed with David Westbrook, our new Director of External Relations. He's very extremely well organized, and we've methodically gone through and scheduled sessions with all our key Pierce County legislators. We participated in larger events with our colleagues from the other public higher institution schools in Pierce County. That is going really well, and the message is consistent all the way through. They are working really hard to do no harm to higher ed. And every day that passes, the financial situation seems to get a little bit better. Folks are talking very positively about our funding for Milgard Hall, because that is seen as an economic development project for the surrounding community. There will be literally hundreds of jobs constructing that building with all the subcontractors that go along with that. So I believe that is going well. We're going to get a new revenue forecast in mid-March, I believe, which will probably weigh heavy on the decisions about the budget. But people are predicting that revenue forecast to be healthy. And what I mean by healthy is better than it has been for the last couple revenue forecasts. We are not going to be out of the woods yet, but the losses that the state is experiencing due to tax receipts is decreasing over time, which is really good. And along with those, you're aware that a stimulus package was passed last November that hasn't made its way all the way to us. It's been earmarked. I know that's not a positive term anymore, but it's been designated, I guess, for University of Washington. Each school has a designated amount. It's coming the university's way with instructions on how to disperse it, and we'll be sharing that with the campus community as it comes in. I suspect a lot of it will go to pay back areas where we've had losses or increased expenses because of COVID. So the news there is I remain hopeful, and I really expect no reductions to need to be taking place with respect to our 2022 budget. So in anticipation of that, you probably saw a short message from me about a week ago. I think February 11th, I sent out a short message to campus that was hopeful, that we don't know. We don't know until it's over. It's not over until it's over. But just to be prepared, we are going to go through a process of considering new ideas and new budget requests from the academic units, from the administrative units. And I also offered to our constituency units, our ASUWT, our staff council, our faculty executive council. If they have ideas, feel free to tell us what those ideas are. And if there are funds available as we work through this, we'll consider all things that make the university a better place. And we have a list of priorities that we included in that message. So the news there is we're going to continue to work through the process, through the units, up through the deans, if it's academic unit, to Dr. Purdy, through the administrative units. But we also have the campus or the Chancellor's Budget Advisory Committee. So we'll continue to work with our constituency groups. Tuesday of this week at Cabinet, we went through a pretty detailed exercise on getting the Cabinet involved also. So we get cross-functional input to what we do. And we committed to carrying that conversation forward over the next several Cabinet meetings. So I believe that's all going well. Now, the next thing I don't know too much about, but I did it, and I recommend all of you get prepared. That's the new two-factor authentication process that the University of Washington IT is implementing. Now, it's not imminent for everybody, but I volunteered about 20 or 25 of us to be pilots to make sure we can go ahead and start that and see if there are any issues that need to be corrected before, thousands of us at UWT go into that two-factor authentication. It's going to be very much like when you log into Workday. I assume many of you, your phone rings and you have to answer it to log into Workday. I believe it's going to be like that for other UW applications. So you won't be able to get into any major UW IT resources without that two-factor of your choosing. You can have a PIN sent to you or whatever you want to do. So that's going well. And for us in the pilot, we have to start that March 1st. So I got into that earlier this week, and it was pretty harmless. Took me about 5 minutes, maybe less than 5 minutes. Okay, a couple more things. I want to talk about some construction projects and then some searches, and then I'm going to turn it to the next person. So construction projects are going well, and actually that's one good thing about the pandemic. Some of these projects are probably going a little quicker than they could have if all of us would have been in the way. So the Tioga and Snoqualmie project is moving forward. The best place to keep up on that project is I discovered Justin puts that blog together. And I would encourage you, if you want to learn about how that's progressing, if you want to learn, you could come to campus and maybe get a tour, and especially if you work there. But if you aren't coming to campus and you want to see what's going on, he takes pictures and explains what's happening, and there's renderings of what it's going to look like. And I believe that's on schedule to be pretty much done by the time most of us come back. This is the first big phase in September. So that's going well. Our new Office of Community Partnerships, which is in a classroom, an old classroom, it's not a classroom anymore. It's been transformed to this beautiful new Office of Community Partnerships on the second floor of Dugan. It's actually the street floor when you come off of Jefferson. If you drive by Jefferson, you'll see there's some activity there because it used to be a window between the two awnings, and now that's the front door. So we always talked about having a front door to our campus through community partnerships. Well, we really are going to have a front door there. There's going to be a front door that's going to take you into an office, and one of the first things you'll see when you go in that office probably is Julia Smith sitting there somewhere in that office, or Dr. Ali Medeiros. I'm not sure who's going to be where, but that's going to be the new Office of Community Partnerships, and that's going to be open, I believe, midsummer or something. There may not be people in the fall. So that's going well. Just this morning, I went downstairs and took a tour of the work on the engineering labs below us here in the academic block below GWP, West Coast Grocery. That's just getting started, pretty much in the demolition phase at the moment. So that means they're still tearing out a few of those walls, not the old timbers, but the sheetrock walls and things between it. They're taking out the lead paint, those kinds of things. So that's going well, and that should be getting boxed in and ready to populate with lab equipment sometime this fall. The last construction project that is starting to accelerate that I talk about a lot is Milgard Hall. It's going to be in the north end of the Crago parking lot. It's going to take up about half, maybe just a little bit more than half of the Crago parking lot. But during the construction period, that's about 18 months long, it's going to take up the entire Crago parking lot. So we're making considerations for recovering that amount of parking as we speak for next fall and subsequent quarters. But that is going very well. We have renderings of that. We have massing diagrams so you can see what it's going to look like next to the Mattress Factory in Tioga. There's a web page, a video. So if you Google Milgard Hall, I'm not sure, I should have looked up the web address, but if you just do a little searching on our website, you can find the materials on that. We make that available to our legislators. There's a little video, a 3-minute video that talks about the project. So I would encourage you to look at that. So the last thing I want to talk about are some searches that are going on and some announcements that have happened. Jill is unfortunately not here today, but if Jill is here, she would congratulate Dean Althoff Merchant, who was recently named Dean of the Milgard School of Business. So congratulations to Dean Merchant. She also sent out an announcement not too long ago that Dean Ann Bartlett is stepping down from her role as Dean of the School of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences and going to return to the faculty. And that's going to happen later in the summer, I believe June 30th. So as we speak, so to speak, Dr. Purdy is collecting input on next steps with respect to naming an interim, because obviously that would be a little quick for us to conduct a national search and find somebody to take over by July. So that's going on. You'll hear more about that soon. Likewise, you've probably started hearing about the Dean search of social work and criminal justice. I understand that there are 4 finalists. We got information about the first one this week, and 3 more are next week, and maybe the beginning of the week after that, or maybe all next week. So that's going on as we speak, virtual interviews. Likewise, a search that's been in the making for some time is the Vice Chancellor for Finance Administration, and that is just about off and running. We've solidified the committee. The search is being chaired by Dr. James McShay, the Vice Chancellor of Equity and Inclusion, and Professor Katie Baird, also from the School of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences. And they have a great committee working with them. And we're right now scheduling the first kickoff meeting to charge that group and start the process of searching for our next Vice Chancellor for Finance Administration. And one more thing I'm saying about that search is the consultant for that search and the consultant for our Chancellor's search. I've had the opportunity to talk to both of them, and we can't guarantee, but we're hopeful that it works out such if there is a Chancellor designee in time, the Chancellor designee can be involved at the very end of that Vice Chancellor Finance Administration search in the deliberation of who the finalist might be and whether or not we want to invite that person to join us at UWT Tacoma. So as far as back to school planning, I'm going to let Joe talk mostly about that, but let me say one thing about that is I remain hopeful. And from the conversations we have in the Board of Deans and Chancellors and in the President's Cabinet, Provost Richards and Anamari Kalse, they remain hopeful, as do many of us, that this fall can be as close to normal as we can be. As I said earlier, we're never going to be back exactly like we were before. We have new capabilities now in hybrid instruction and things like that. But we are essentially a residential or commuter campus. There is such thing as a Husky experience, and it's a wonderful experience. So our intention is being back here on campus with, yes, we will have more instances of remote work and things like that, but our goal is to be back. And, you know, I probably shouldn't talk about mathematics because I'm not a mathematician, but and I'm not Dr. Fauci, for sure, and you all know that. But the way I look at it is if you look at where we were in mid-December, after, you know, too many Thanksgiving visits and things, the steepness of that curve, and compare it to where we are now, just 2.5 months later, and how far we've come. I mean, it's an order of magnitude we've come from the cases and the deaths and all those kinds of number of infections. So if you think about projecting that out in the future for 2.5 more months, that only gets us to mid-May. So then you have time to project it another time, another order of magnitude, because it is an exponential downward trend. Now, we have the opportunity to be way out of the woods by fall is if we all remain safe and diligent with our practices. So I'm hopeful. I hope some of you are too, but I've talked too much, so I'm going to hand it to Mentha Hines-Wilson, our Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, and she's going to give some updates from her area. So Mentha.
Thank you, Mark. And hello to students, staff, faculty, alumni, and friends. We're nearing the midpoint of the winter quarter, pretty close to the end. And I'm really hopeful that you and your family and your friends are indeed well. But for those that are overwhelmed or experiencing illness and loss, I want to offer you a virtual hug and let you know that your Husky extended family cares. So I'm grateful for everyone for your efforts to ensure a successful quarter. You've heard me say that before, and I will say it again. I'm so incredibly grateful for all of the work that individuals across this campus has done to ensure that our students are having a good experience. And the evidence of our success is reflected in the impressive accomplishments of our students. And I have a couple that I'd like to highlight with you today. So Shanice Jackson, a student studying law and policy and business administration with a minor in global engagement, along with Andre Jimenez, a junior studying law and policy and also minoring in global engagement, are finalists for the prestigious Harry S. Truman Scholarship. That is something that we should all applaud and be excited about. In addition to that, UW Tacoma captured the gold medal from the Council for Advancement and Support of Education for the We Are First Generation poster campaign. The Student Veterans of America named Tacoma Student Veterans Organization as one of the top 5 in the nation. And Christina Prigozhin, a pre-law student, is only the second, let me underscore that, second UW student to serve as a member of the University of Washington Board of Regents. So for me, and I hope for all, this is really a good time to be a member of the Tacoma Husky community. Now, on the admissions front, there's quite a bit that I want to share with you. You know from your time with Tacoma, or maybe as a new member of our community, you may not be as familiar with this, but Tacoma remains steadfast in its commitment to support access to higher education and create a career-ready culture. One of the most exciting initiatives is Pathways to Promise, also known as P2P. So through P2P, our pre-college and enrollment teams work with staff and administrators within various school districts to support college and career-ready programming. We tailor our discussions and our interactions based upon the needs of the particular building and the district. Plus, students who participate in P2P and who fulfill a set of agreements are assured admission to UW Tacoma. So who are our Pathways to Promise partners? They include Auburn, Bethel, Federal Way, Fife, Franklin Pierce, Kent, Puyallup, Steilacoom, Tacoma, and Tahoma. And I'm excited to announce the new partnership with the Chief Lashai schools. So all of these entities are working with us to really ramp up the notion of college as a possibility, but also that UW Tacoma is a home base, a place that embraces all students. So I want to take this opportunity to invite all members of the Husky community to assist the admissions team in the recruitment, enrollment, and retention of a diverse and inclusive student body. Enrollment of first-time students in college as well as transfer students. So Operation New Student is still in effect. And you will see in a few moments the website, how you can access information and help us in assisting students in recruiting or in enrolling at the University of Washington. So if you click on the website, there's detailed information about the application process and the application deadlines. Prospective students are encouraged to apply now to become a part of our community for the spring as well as for the fall. Operation New Student, I referenced this last month. I suggested 2 students in 2 weeks, refer 2 students, 2 weeks, and I'd like for you to continue in that regard. The point of contact for Operation New Student is Navia Winterling, who is our senior admission advisor. Again, that is Navia Winterling and this senior admission advisor. You are encouraged to send an email message to Navia directly, indicating the names of the students that you are referring, and then Navia will follow up with you and let you know their progress. She won't be able to go into great detail about their profile, but she will let you know whether or not an application has come in and where they are within the pipeline. I've got more good news to share in terms of new students. As of today, the applications for spring 2021 quarter are up, and the number of students who have confirmed their plan to enroll for the spring is up. We're running ahead 6% right now compared to last year this time. So a round of applause to each and every individual who has reached out, provided support to students, and encouraged them to complete the application process. For autumn 2020, the numbers are looking solid as well. Things are moving upward, and I'd like for you all to continue the good work. Keep up the good work. Let's continue to be attentive to those email messages, phone calls, requests to visit the campus. It all makes a difference in the ways in which students perceive their ability to thrive on our campus. So let me transition from recruiting students, keeping them here, they persist and they flourish, and then the hallmark or the highlight at the conclusion is commencement. So plans are underway for 2021. Join us for a virtual celebration of the class of 2021 on Friday, June 11th. Friday, June 11th is when Tacoma will engage in its celebration of the current class. Seniors, be sure that you talk with your advisors, order your cap and gown, submit your application to the registrar's office, and visit the commencement website. The commencement website is being refreshed to provide up-to-date information, but I would encourage you to go there as a key point of information. Seniors, I also invite you to visit with me next week for a community conversation related to commencement. On Thursday, March 4th at 12:30, connect with me, Chancellor Pagano, and Brianna Bales, the Director of Events and Sponsorships, for a conversation regarding commencement. You know that we still remain in the midst of a pandemic, and the health and safety of you and your family and our communities remain our top priority. So there's some uncertainty around how COVID is going to impact commencement, not only for 2021, but for the years following that. So take the time to connect with me and others for a frank conversation. We can discuss the design of the program, the conferring of the degrees, a speech from a member of the graduating class, and perhaps some entertainment opportunities. But please join me for a frank and candid conversation regarding commencement 2021. Again, that date is Thursday, March 4th at 12:30. And seniors, you should receive an invite in your inbox within the next 1 to 2 days. Okay, so stay tuned. One more comment, and that's related to the administrative alignment. You will recall that last fall, President Kase and Provost Richards charged myself and Dr. Jill Purdy with examining the structural challenges at UW Tacoma. And we really wanted to look at that within the relationship of our connection to UW Seattle. They asked for Jill and I to develop a set of recommendations connected to the administrative alignment that would create a successful pathway for the new chancellor. So Jill and I have had the opportunity to reflect on issues that we have been aware of in our positions. We've also gathered information provided by the Tacoma Tri-Campus Steering Committee, the Council of Deans, and conversations with various constituency groups. We know that there's so much that we could do and want to do in terms of alignments on the campus. But for the purposes of the charge from President Kase and Provost Richards, we kept the scope pretty narrow, focusing on those issues that we feel will have the biggest long-term impact on how we operate as a campus. So we didn't address some issues related to faculty code or governance, hiring, tenure, or finance. Again, kept it pretty limited. That information or that document has been completed and it will be available for public review. Stay tuned, information will be coming to you regarding the location, but it will be a public document. We invite everyone to read it and review it and share feedback to us directly. So those are some items from the world of student affairs and also from the world of the vice chancellors. Again, I am thankful for all that has been accomplished thus far. I too look forward to a time in which we are back on the campus physically, and I look forward to any questions or concerns that come at the end. Thank you. So now I pass the mic to Joe.
All right, thank you, Mentha. So I did my 2 students. I referred 2 students, and I'm pretty confident that both of them are going to come here. So I will start on my next 2. I'll get to work on that. And I encourage everyone else to do the same, including our students. Tell your friends, UWT is an awesome place. So let's see, I've got a couple of comments that I want to make, a couple of pieces of information I want to share with you. One, I just want to quickly talk about the Chancellor's search. I don't have a lot of information about it, but what I do know is that constituency group meetings have happened with the consultant. They're pulling together the job announcement and getting that posted, and they're working hard to get a good field of candidates for our next chancellor position. So, and that they will be following up with campus in terms of when they want campus to engage with meeting chancellor candidates. So I just wanted to talk about that. Dr. Marian Harris and Dr. Frank Hodge are the co-chairs of that committee. And you all know Marian, or if you don't, you should know Marian because she is a great member of our campus community. And Dr. Frank Hodge is the Dean of the Foster School of Business on the Seattle campus. So another quick item, COVID testing. If you have not been tested for COVID, I encourage you to do so. We're going to have an opportunity on our campus. The Pierce County Health Department will be here. It is in the parking lot across the street from Tacoma Paper and Stationery on Jefferson Street. And that will be on Saturday, March 6th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So it's free, it's drive up, it's essentially contactless except for the swab. I have done it there. It's super convenient. I highly encourage you, even if you are not symptomatic, to get tested. It helps keep our community safer. So COVID-19 prevention plans and the Safe Start checklist. So it's coming up on a year ago that we kind of left campus, and then later in the spring we developed our safety plans unit by unit, area by area on campus. I encourage our site supervisors of those plans to review them. Go back and review your plan, make any changes and updates that you think are necessary. We've learned as we've interacted with campus, we've learned some things. So those plans should be changing as we kind of grow and evolve and begin to have more presence on campus. So please do that. Remember, if you are coming to campus, there's rules around that. I always like to just repeat our rules. Do your daily attestation, wear your mask, wash your hands, and remember the best method for avoiding COVID, you can't beat 6 feet. You should always be 6 feet away from everyone else. So if you do those things, we can keep our campus safe, and this will be even as we return in the fall. So I want to quickly mention study spaces for students and for faculty as well. Let your students know there are study spaces available on campus. I believe the number's up around 150 now. Individual spaces for individual study, not group study, that you can reserve online. Go to the main website and then it's /study. And you can reserve your space, know exactly what your space is going to be. There's some up at the Y now, so a little bit different operating hours at the Y if you have some kind of more unique needs in terms of study space. But I encourage you to do that. If you do have Wi-Fi access issues, there's also parking lot Wi-Fi access issues and aren't comfortable coming into one of the buildings. There's also parking lot Wi-Fi available. We boosted the Wi-Fi in the Craigle lot, and they haven't started construction there yet. So come park in the Craigle lot and access Wi-Fi. You can attend class. You can study that way. A lot of opportunities and options for you in terms of studying. So Mark and Mentha, you did such a phenomenal job presenting that I have no questions in my inbox. So what I'd like to do is encourage you, if you're watching this later on tonight or tomorrow, and you think of questions, please do send them to UWT Town Hall at uw.edu, and we will get you answers to those questions. So, Mark, would you like to wrap things up?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. And thank you for that presentation. You always do such a great job in taking care of all the details and moving us through these town halls. So I appreciate that. Also, Mentha, thank you so much for that encouraging report from Student Affairs Land. I was wondering about that virtual hug because I've seen you pour molasses virtually and it showed up right there in my kitchen. So I'm not sure how that virtual hug is going to be, but that sounds really cool. So thank you for your presentation. Also, thank you, Mark and Zach. They're quietly doing their work in the booth behind the scenes, and they always do such a great job in putting this on. So thank you to the team that did this town hall today. And then I have one more piece of good news is we just have 2 more weeks to go and we'll be done with winter quarter 2021. We'll have 1 quarter behind us in this year, which we thought was going to be a completely different year from 2020. And I still think it will be. It's just going to take us a little while to get there. So only 2 weeks to go. Stay diligent. If you're a student, keep your studies up, keep your assignments in. If you're a faculty member, stick with it. And I know you all will. Not long to go. And then we'll all get a much deserved rest. And then it's just essentially one more last quarter for this academic year before commencement And then I truly do believe that with the summer, we have that buffer of space. We can expect to do much more back on campus in fall 2021. I won't be your chancellor by then, but I'll be on the faculty, and I look forward to having coffee at Metro with some of you and being back on campus with our colleagues and friends. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. You all deserve a pat on the shoulder and one of those virtual hugs. And we appreciate everything you're doing. Please take care of yourselves and your family, and we'll see you again soon.